Hey everybody, different video location today. I'm at work right now because I don't have time to film this at home, and I'm in Ryan's office right now because he's going to see Metallica. But he has some beautiful natural light coming through, so we're gonna try to make the most of it. My girlfriend loves Dance Moms, and sometimes I watch it with her because it's pretty entertaining. I've now caught myself watching Dance Moms podcast, seeing the behind the scenes stuff, stalking their personal Instagrams, just keeping up with their lives all the time. Something caught my attention recently though when I was watching a Maddie Ziegler, who's the main protagonist, in an interview. She adamantly will never say Abby Lee Miller, who's the tyrannical antagonist of the whole show's name. She only refers to her as my dance teacher. This caught my attention for a number of reasons, all of which can be summed up by my general sadness that she is very obviously scarred from this whole experience. And I can only imagine that all the other characters are also pretty deeply scarred from Abby Lee Miller. And I call them characters, by the way, because it's pretty obvious that this show is embellished. I mean, there's no news there. Embellished as it may be, I don't think that these 5-year-old girls are trained actresses who know how to cry on command multiple times per episode.
Take a breath through your nose. Take a deep breath through your nose.
It's not working.
Take a deep breath through your nose. Breathe out your nose.
I think that their tears are very real. It's pretty often that the kids are consoling one another, fidgeting out of social discomfort, or just experiencing actual trauma response from their work environment. And I wouldn't really say that their mothers help the situation all that much. I'd consider them more to be tornadoes of mothers who are probably some of the least emotionally equipped people I've ever seen handle these situations. Or they're just Emmy-nominated actresses. I'm not a parent myself, but I've seen my parents deal with the Abby Lee Millers of the world, the very emotionally abusive figures. They don't really tend to add to my anxiety when they handle the situation. They usually just diffuse it in a very calm and collected way. I have now fully sworn off Dance Moms, although I guess once in a while I'll watch an episode with my girlfriend just to make her happy. I don't really indulge anymore in watching this lady just brand emotional scars onto these children. I won't do it anymore. Because in a lot of ways, I kind of see myself. I have experienced and still do kind of experience this exact behavior in my career today, but I experienced it a lot more when I was playing a high level of athletics when I was about 16, and I swore that I would never have anything to do with athletics ever again at that point. I was just completely fed up with it. I've had coaches since I was 8 years old for soccer, hockey, whatever, just make me cry every single day of my life. I would like to think that they meant well, of course, but I was pretty psychologically fucked up for a little bit from having coaches punish me when I was only trying to do my best. I obviously hated being yelled at all the time for doing nothing but try to appease my coaches. I used to just beg my mom to not make me go to practice anymore, or I would literally pray to God that I would not get put into a game. What sucked is that I love my teammates still, and even after I left travel sports, I wanted to support them. But whenever I'd go to their games and pull into the parking lot and I'd see my old coach's car, I would just have a full-blown anxiety attack and just drive home. I honestly just kind of thought that if this is what it takes to be successful, then I think I'm just gonna go find something else to do with my life. And when I see Maddie Ziegler and all of the other Dance Mom cast find success in their lives, whether it's personal or professional, I was just asking myself, I wonder if they think that this was worth it. We obviously are more exposed to the fame and fortune of what these kids have, but sometimes I ask myself, honestly, would I do what they do and endure what they endured to get the level of success that they have? And it's not really a rhetorical question. I honestly don't know how I feel about it. I know the side of things where you give up and you're like, enough is enough. I don't need to see my dreams of being a professional athlete come to fruition. This is not worth it. But I don't really know what life is like on the other side of things. In a way, I got out in time to heal the damage that I had taken. There's a pretty famous music group that I'm actually tied to that also knows this side of the story. I'm not gonna use their actual name to protect their identity. This group was, and I guess still technically is, 2 guys who had this idea that they wanted to go to med school, and then they were kind of chased down by this music manager who said, no, you guys should chase your dreams and do music, you're really talented. So they did decide to go into music, and with a lot of hard work and luck, they actually became incredibly successful. They at one point had the most commercially successful song in the entire world, so obviously their trajectory changed considerably. And in the midst of trying to suss out what to do with their music careers, they were presented with the opportunity of a lifetime. They were given a chance to physically live with and collaborate frequently with people like Katy Perry, Kesha, Avril Lavigne, you name it. Big heads in music. There were 2 stipulations though. 1, they had to surrender over half of the rights of all of their music. And 2, they had to work with a very emotionally and at times physically abusive producer who made it very clear that they were the only reason that they were successful. So their manager kind of just said, hey, you should consider this offer, but if you want to walk away, I respect that too. You should do what you want. So they did choose to walk. And it definitely caused a lot of friction between everybody involved. They decided that they're fine with not being the next The Weeknd or Ariana Grande, which, yes, were both kind of molded by this person. So after they walked away from this whole thing, they were kind of on a new trajectory. Maybe not be the biggest band in the entire world, but just be a really successful band that's probably a lot more psychologically intact. So some of you are thinking, are you crazy? Being a multi-millionaire quadruple platinum artist? I'll stick it out. And some of you are thinking, yeah, no thanks. I can absolutely see why they left, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I'd like to imagine that if I was treated this way by producers that I know that, yes, I think are probably gonna be some of the greatest producers ever, I would also leave. But with the track record that this person had, it wouldn't be a knee-jerk reaction. Situations like this can also be made a little bit more difficult when there's an expectation to succeed and there's just no way around the abuse. My dad sometimes tells me stories about what it was like to be in residency as a neurosurgeon at a level 3 trauma hospital in Detroit. You're already sleeping at the hospital for half the week. You're getting spit on, literally, yelled at, berated. People with bullet wounds are coming in every 5 seconds. And if you slip up, that could mean somebody's life or your job. So now you've spent potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars and almost 12 years of your life dedicated towards this one goal, so you might have to eat the pain. It might be your only way out. But of course, on the other side of the story is a very successful physician who's financially stable for the rest of his life and has the best 4th child in the world, so obviously, it's probably worth it, right? Speaking of my dad, sometimes I like to think about how my brother, who's 30 years old, plays in an adult men's hockey league, and he loves it, but he struggles with skating, which you can only imagine is pretty much the most important part of the game. And he always asks my dad, why didn't you just force me to play hockey when I was a kid? I'd be so much better off. And of course, my dad always reminds him, well, you didn't want to play hockey when you were a kid. How could I have known that in 30 years you were gonna want to join some shitty beer league team with all your friends? Probably didn't help that my brother was also born pretty much right at the peak of my dad getting abused during his residency. By the time his 4th kid came around, he was pretty much convinced that even though there's some benefits to pushing your kid in a more focused direction, one of your ultimate goals as a parent is to kind of just let your kid be a kid. I am so grateful for all the milestones that I've hit in my music career, like the YouTube milestones and playing big shows, but oh my gosh, none of them even hold a candle to the memories and the unadulterated joy that I have of just being a kid who plays guitar with his friends. My parents never forced me to play music. They never asked me to practice. They didn't really ask me to do much of anything. But I knew that whenever I wanted to go spend time with my music friends, they always made sure that it was possible. I remember I wasn't even playing in the Rock Off, but I just went to go hang out with First to 11, who was M4 back in the day, while they competed. And my parents made sure that I had a ride to the studio and that I had my overnight bag packed. They wanted to make sure that there was nothing about to get in the way of me just living my kid life with my friends. I mean, I could tell you probably 30 stories from just the 2-hour car ride down to Cleveland alone that made me laugh so fucking hard I couldn't breathe. I mean, I can literally just like close my eyes and picture in my head being in middle school. I just got out of class and I'm about to go to Charlie and Bo Root's house to meet up with Chad, Matt, and Ben to go eat pizza and go swimming and watch scary movies, and it's just like euphoric. We also like never even really touched musical instruments when we hung out, and I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. So in that context of the question, I would relive every tear, anxiety attack, sleepless night 50 times over just to experience those memories that I had with my music friends as a kid. I mean, there was no expectation for me to become a famous musician or anything. So now it kind of begs this bigger question of, well, is it better to have the pressure on you and have all the expectations, or is it actually more beneficial to have no expectations and to be able to just walk away from something and have nobody be disappointed? Most of my time spent in my first band called Jack's Mom, I was not in First to 11. So for most of that time, I kind of got to notice all the differences between my band and First to 11. Well, for starters, Jack's Mom was run by me and First to 11 was run by Ryan. Now, Ryan was very responsible in getting Jack's Mom started and established, but there came a point where he just wanted to shift his focus to be entirely on First to 11. I remember being probably 13 years old and I had just started Jack's Mom, and I asked if I could go to a First to 11 practice just to watch. Because one, I knew Ryan and I wanted to get to know the rest of the band. But two, because I wanted to see how a band practice should be run. I wanted to know all the ins and outs. I want to know how you're supposed to conduct things, how you're supposed to run the show. And three, because I like middle school dated the singer at the time. That's not Audra. He was pretty militaristic. I mean, back then you have to remember First to 11 was at this weird crux of development where they're about to outgrow being like a little kid band that's really good for their age, just having to be a normally good band. There's pacing back and forth, making them run songs a million times. He'd call out people by name and by timestamp as to where they messed up and how they messed up and ask them how they were gonna fix it. I wouldn't really call it like unhealthy, but it made you afraid to make a mistake, that's for sure. I mean, it was definitely intense, but I saw how far that got them. When First to 11 and Jack's Mom competed in the high school rock off together for the first time when I think I was 14 years old, it was pretty noticeable how much better they were than us. They had better stage presence, they had a better set, they were more gimmicky. When I joined First to 11 later in life, I caught the tail end of the intensity. I'd kind of describe it as like a different flavor of intensity. Like it was like the intensity of preparing for TV shows and taking YouTube more seriously and canceling vacations to play bigger shows, which is all great, but but there were moments where I was just like, there's no way that this amount of stress and anxiety is worth it. But I mean, it obviously worked out for first to 11. I mean, I can say as somebody who holistically has a pretty rounded experience being not in first to 11 and then being in first to 11, that it was kind of worth all the discomfort and the pain. And now we can relax and chill, and we all agree nowadays that there's just no reason for first to 11 to become super intense or stressful. I think I'm pretty comfortable talking about this topic. 1, because I lived it. 2, because I have a great relationship with Ryan. And 3, because when I was in Jack's mom, I was kind of like Abby Lee Miller. Unfortunately. You have to remember, I didn't know that first to 11 was going to sustain me, and I couldn't look into the future. So I was trying to run a first to 11 type operation without the first to 11 knowledge or the first to 11 resources. I mean, I made us rehearse super late all the time. I tried to get us to do YouTube. I made us all write demos and organize them in Dropbox and get on email lists and organize social media posts and all that stuff. And it definitely made some people in the group resent me. And if I could look into the future and had known that first 11 will sustain me, and I would have just thought there's no reason to stress about any of this, I probably could have stopped a lot of the people in my band from temporarily hating me. If you think about it, that was a situation where I wanted to go all in on the pain and discomfort to just get to where I wanted to go to, but the people around me didn't. So I think I look back on this part of my life and I cringe just a little bit because I didn't know at the time how to manage that balance of having everybody's best interests in mind and like completely squashing somebody's passion for something. I mean, there were times that the anxiety that I had from coaches made me completely want to stop playing that sport. And I knew that going into starting Jack's Mom. I already had those experiences. I knew that I had the ability to make sure that nobody would ever want to pick up a guitar again for the rest of their life. And I think about that every day when I'm teaching private lessons to students. So when I think about the kids from Dance Moms, it seems like a lot of them have found a way to like rekindle that friendship with everybody, and they're all on generally good terms, and some of them have even found a way, a healthy way, to have dance back in their life. But that's not really a guaranteed thing. I really like my setup now with my life. I've said this before, but I like my job, I like where I live, I like that it's generally pretty creative, I like the people I get to do it with. I mean, it's definitely not perfect or anything. I'm definitely just a member of the workforce, and I got a lot of stuff I gotta get done, and unfortunately I don't have as many of those memories nowadays of the laughing so hard my face turns blue, but you know, such is the way of life, and I'm certainly not complaining. So, is it worth it? I mean, I guess it's up to the individual. I've said before that suffering in moderation can lead to some of life's greatest successes, but everybody has their own boundaries and limits. If I'm lucky enough to become a parent one day, I would like for my kid to not be crying every single day from some sort of tyrannical authority, whether it's a coach, a dance teacher, a music instructor, especially at a very crucial point in their psychological development. It's true, those scars can heal, but I'd rather not take my chances, I think. If my kid is hyper-focused and motivated, well then I'll just let him run wild, but maybe not too wild or else they'll end up rolling their car twice. For myself right now, I am still unfortunately caught in a situation or two where I'm not really sure if things are worth it, but at least I'm a lot more better equipped to handle that situation and to weigh out the pros and the cons. Unfortunately, there are still some people in my life that make me feel a lot like my old coaches did. But I think now I have some mystery mouse tools. I know to use my voice a lot better. I think I'm also better at assessing if this person has my best interest in mind or if they're just trying to exercise their power. I still can't look into the future, but I can understand better that discomfort now for a better future can be a winning strategy. And yes, I'm still on my Dance Mom's hiatus. This video is for anybody who's trying to suss out an uncomfortable situation. I hope that you treat yourself with some kindness, treat yourself fairly, and make peace with the whole situation. Feel free to comment any obstacles you've faced that you decided to either just avoid completely or face head on. They always generate a very interesting dialogue. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment any future videos you'd like to see down below.